Perhaps we'll start with just briefly talk to us about, the function of the Bureau.
Yeah, well, the International Program for the Development of Communication is a UNESCO agency responsible for development of mass media, especially within developing countries. Now, the Bureau, on a regular basis, selects and approves projects that are dealing with mass media communication, development of communication, on an annual basis. So that is, and also the Bureau would organize the work of the IPDC, the International Program for the Development of Communication. So just we just now approved as a first round projects that were submitted to the Bureau. So, and we managed, I can say that one of the project that was submitted by Namibia went through. So we're looking forward to final approval.
On to our topic of discussion this evening. Talk to us about what the status of press freedom in Namibia is.
Well, as you know, and that ranking has not changed. We are still the #1 in Africa when it comes to media freedom, free speech, and so on. And well, it's significant. We just recently celebrated the 30th anniversary of the Windhoek Declaration. We all know about the Windhoek Declaration that was adopted in '91 here in Windhoek. So it's quite significant, and just fitting that Namibia would still maintain that rank.
Yeah. And what do you think Namibia is doing right in order to maintain that rank over the past couple of years?
Well, if you look around, in established democracies, in countries that have been at it for a long time, you have not seen, you find that sometimes journalists are under pressure, under fire. We just also recently found that the 21 report by UNESCO, by the UN, and around safety of journalists has indicated that as many as 55 journalists were killed in the line of duty because they are journalists working. And significantly, in 2013, it was reported that many of the journalists were killed in countries where there are conflicts. This year, or the 21 report says, many of the countries, or many of the journalists were killed in countries where there are no conflict, where there are no wars, where they are exposed to it. Journalists are not exposed to the dangers of war, and when they cover it, they get killed there. But they were killed in countries where there are no conflicts, so it's quite significant.
This year's World Press Freedom Day is being commemorated under the theme Journalism Under Digital Siege. What is this speaking towards, Mr. Denk?
Well, we have seen, even during the debates leading up to Press Freedom Day last year, 21 here in Windhoek, where another very seminal declaration was adopted. We had seen that how traditional media has yielded its power to the social media. And what it means that if you find many a times people would see stuff on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok and other platforms, but they would believe it as the gospel truth, and they would tell you, I saw it on Facebook. So this is the power that traditional media yielded towards social media, and this is where journalism are under siege as a result of this power. We see now that Elon Musk has taken over Twitter. We will see the debate is again raging around whether social media should be regulated.
Yeah.
There are people, of course, saying that social media should have an unfettered free speech and so on. But there are also, and there are various debates around that. Yes, social media serve as very good in platforms like you have seen with Black Lives Matter and the Me Too movement as well. Social media were used very constructively to mobilize the people against what they were standing for. I mean, and that was effective. But in terms of participation by social media actors, the playing field is not leveled. There is this. We find also that when you are pushing an agenda, you can use what they call bots, which is basically robots masquerading as humans. And, you know, the more you push one agenda, the more people would believe. So for me, that is what it speaks. Journalists under siege, digital siege. That's for me what it speaks to.
Thank you so much. Now, the digital world has really for years been changing, the normal way of life, including that of media, as you've seen in some examples that you've just given. How can it be used as an opportunity for promotion of press freedom?
Well, like what I just mentioned before, in terms of how effective it can be to mobilize people across, not only in one country, but across the world. The Black Lives Matter movement, the Me Too movement. You would know the Me Too movement was about gender-based violence and how people, and rape and all of those. And it can be mobilized against any form of violence against people. So yes, there is a very effective. It's a very effective tool in terms of mobilizing and making media more free. But it has to be. We have to be very responsible in terms of how we use the media and what sort of impact it has. So you have seen with the issues of fake news, polarization, and many other negative things that can be associated with social media platforms. Especially COVID-19, we have seen how quickly it could spread. You talk about 5G around social media and what link it has to COVID-19, which was a complete untruth, but it spread like a wildfire on social media. So therein lies the power, and also not only the power, but the damage it can do. Yeah. So it's important, whoever is purveying social media, that risk that is there is also understood. And coming from the Windhoek Declaration, Windhoek Plus 30 Declaration, there are, as part of this declaration, transparency of media, internet companies are one of them. So meaning whatever you have to make available. Yes. You must be more transparent. Media viability, again, is where it comes back to journalists under siege, because the social media has taken away a lot of the space for the traditional media, and as a result of that, we have seen COVID only came to compound it. We have seen before how social media has impacted traditional media.
Furthermore, Mr. Denk, how is it that we should, strive to uphold, press freedom, not only in Namibia, but the world over?
Well, it's about speaking, being truthful, being accurate about your information, and having credibility, and making sure that you maintain the ethics. The Editors Forum of Namibia, which, as you stated, I'm the deputy chair of. We have what we call the ethics of journalists. So that becomes, because we are in a self-regulatory environment, that becomes like your law, your Bible, to which you must always ascribe to. You must be held accountable to that ethics. So in terms of that ethical journalism, that's the only way to go, to ensure credibility, to ensure that you apply basic principles of journalism, so that if you speak, if there's a story about one person and there are certain allegations, that you also make sure that by all means necessary that you find the other side of the story to balance. That's one very simple aspect of the basics of journalism, but it's important. And so the ethics, because there's a changing environment that we live in, the ethics also speaks about many other what you should maintain to be ethical. Right. So it's important that young journalists find the book and see. Ethics are also taught within school, at higher education institutions, and it's important that becomes ingrained as a journalist, that whatever you do, your ethics becomes first.
Yeah. Peter Denk, thank you so much for joining us this evening here on the Daily Roundup.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Nina. Thank you for having me.